100 to 50.
So from the budget, the curveballs that I've picked up on, I think the big one is those that are looking at EOTs, employee ownership trusts. The big advantage of the EOT was the tax relief on it, right? The CGT, and it's now going from basically 100% tax relief down to 50%. So you're only going to get tax relief on the 50%. Now a lot of people are still saying, well, that's still quite good. I disagree. Um, because that was the fundamental advantage of an EOT against just an outright sale. So that I think is going to impact business owners looking to exit, and possibly quite substantially, because it is overnight. Well, I say overnight. I'm not quite sure when it's actually coming in, but it has taken away the biggest advantage of having having the EOT in place. The other one that's changed, but it's not changed, but it is changing anyway, right? Is business asset disposal relief, what we always called entrepreneurs tax relief, what they now call business asset disposal relief, which actually got an acronym of BADA. And I thought, I mean, I just you couldn't make this up. The budget today says it's remaining unchanged. Everybody's all like, oh, that's fantastic. No, no, no. Put the cork back in the champagne bottle, because it changed last time. And it was going from 14% to 18% in April 26. So if you're looking to exit your business, it's quite simply, you're going to have to factor on the 18%. And when you think where we were, right, we were at 10% for the first 10
Same with
million. So when I was doing the acquisition, when I was with Tradeprint, we sold Tradeprint for 21 million, and the first 10 million of that went through at 10%, right? Tax, which is phenomenal. And then it was changed, dropped down to a million. Then it's 14%, and now it's up to 18% from April 26th. That's a sore one. So anybody looking to sell is going to have to budget on that 18%. There's a lot of increased chatter. Business owners I'm working with, business owners I'm speaking with, and I'm not going to ask anybody today what stage you're at in the journey. I don't want you to reveal that. But there's more chatter with business owners looking to actually exit by selling. And as I said earlier on, that's a worry, because if there's an increased amount of buyers, so an increased amount of sellers and not an increased amount of buyers, then that's going to have an impact on driving the prices down. For those looking to exit the business, restructure it, not sell it, yeah, we've still got some challenges there as well, because the budget today changed taxation and dividends. It's up a couple of percent. We've got minimum wage increases again. Okay, it was announced in the budget, but they would have happened anyway. Big one for those with big capital expenses. I've got a few printing clients that are just shaking their head with this one. Writing down allowances have changed and been reduced, and then plus, 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 plus. So there's still challenges for those in business that are looking to exit but not actually sell the business. So, what do I mean by you don't have to sell your business to exit it? Quite simply, when you look at some of the numbers, it is actually quite worrying, right? And what I mean by that is 80% of businesses that are listed for sale never sell. And what we've got to look at here is why that is. And the answer is quite simply, they don't sell because they're just not sellable. Or I prefer to put it another way, is they're not buyable, right? From what a buyer looking to come in. We'll cover a lot of what they are today. And we've also got to look at what we call push and pull factors. What is actually making somebody want to exit the business? If it's pull factors, then that's good, because pull factors are things like, I've been wanting to retire, I've got other business interests, all the nice things that's making you want to exit your business. The push factors are the dangerous ones. You're literally being pushed out the business, too much hassle, too much stress, long hours, etc., etc. And when it's push factors that is making you exit your business, then that's a problem, because A, your business is not worth anywhere near what it should be, and B, you ain't going to sell it. Nobody's going to buy that. And you need to fix that whether you're looking to keep it or exit it. So push factors is something you want to consider. For me, exiting your business has got two distinct routes, and you've got to choose both because we all exit the business at some point. But I always say you've got to look at exiting the business where you own it. And what I mean by that is, and within reason, you can take as much time off as you want. You're not having to rely on you being in the business constantly for decision making. The business, in effect, runs effectively and efficiently without you having to make all the decisions. And that doesn't mean you have to have a large team. That's down to the systems and the processes. And when you've got a business like that, it actually becomes quite enjoyable, right? And this is when most business owners actually say, well, actually, I don't really need to sell the business now. And then, of course, option two is the exit itself, where you prepare the business for sale. And we're going to cover why those two things are related. So where did it all start and how have I got here in my journey? So most of you know me. I wrote the book How to Create Your Business based on my story of having a very successful business based in Glasgow. It was a printing business. It became the largest independent print centre in the country. And that business failed at its 20th birthday. All avoidable mistakes. All the mistakes I made were avoidable. And we were really punching above our weight. And that business still failed in its 20th birthday. But when I look back on it, that business was not sellable. Multi-million pound business, lots of assets, lots of property, making a ton of money. So everything was there, but that business was not sellable, or certainly not sellable for anything near what it could have been worth. And the reason for that was moi, far too reliant on me. Take me out of the business, and that business is on a very, very shaky peg. Even, we were turning over just what, 4 million at that point. Still a sizable business, but the structure wasn't there. So anybody coming in to take over that business would probably have to get 3 or 4 people to replace me. So yes, the business had value, but it was nowhere near what the business could have been worth. Over here is what I call the business owner's exit paradox, right? And if you look at this slide here, and this is where you'll start to see that it's exactly the same. To sell a business, it must be well structured, systemized, profitable, efficient, and run effectively without the owner's continual input. But if you want to retain an enjoyable business that you don't have to work in constantly, or the decisions are not all coming to you, and you can take time off easily. Well, it's the exact same thing. The business has got to be well structured, systemized, profitable, and efficient, and run effectively without the owner's continual input. It is exactly the same, right? And if you've not got that in place, then you've not got a business, you've got a job, and it's certainly not a sellable business. And that's where 80% are. This is why 80% of businesses don't sell. So we call that the business owner's exit paradox. And if you think of things like, what you hear and what you might be thinking yourself, I want out of this, I'm fed up with the hassle. I need to prepare the business for sale, but that can maybe take a couple of years. And once you actually start to put all these systems and processes in place, a funny thing happens. You actually go, actually, this business is quite enjoyable now. And I could actually sell it, but why would I sell it? Because it's actually making me decent money. Because invariably, when you're trapped in the business, it's not just a lot of hassle and not enjoyable. It's invariably not profitable as well. And that brings us on then to the valuation paradox. What small business owners think it's worth. And if it wasn't so sad, this would actually be funny because some of the figures that I get, oh, a business coach told me, or I got evaluations for business, and it's ridiculously out. And the valuation for small business owners usually falls somewhere between a wild guess and can only be described as a mushroom fueled hallucination. Too many business owners look at what they need to exit. Well, I need £1 million to exit. To be comfortable, I need £1 million. So that's what my business is worth. No, it doesn't work that way. So the first thing we've got to do, if exit is your preferred route, you've got to get a real value on your business. But remember that real value is down to what somebody will actually pay for it. Right? Now, the valuation of the business, you'll hear, all sorts of terms and, EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxation, depreciation, amortization. It's an accounting term to strip back a few things to value your business. But for small business owners, the preferred option is actually called SDE, Seller's Discretionary Earnings. And SDE is a little bit juicier way to value a smaller business, and it's usually a higher valuation than EBITDA. But it means nothing, right? It is a number, right? Because it's a paper value. And with small business owners, paper values don't really mean that much. Business brokers won't tell you that, but that is just absolute fact. However, it is a starting point, so we need to do it. We need to do it. The real valuation is what somebody's going to pay for it. And this is where I created a system called Junction 20 that focuses on what we call the desirability of the business. And these are the things that start to kick into value, to add to the value rather. Because when you've got one or two potential buyers and they can actually start to see the potential of your business, and it's not just figures plucked out of the sky, that really starts to work for you. It's what we call the growth potential. Because if the real value is what someone's prepared to pay for it, then you've got to paint the picture of what life is going to be like after we buy your business. It's not pie in the sky. We use two tools. One's called the growth curve, one's called growth potential. And the growth curve basically maps out, it's a 10-year figure, 5 years historic, current year, 5 years in the future. So you're planning out that curve of your business. Always do that because that is always going to be how you justify your figures. I can explain that in more detail if anyone's interested. So we go back to this horrible statistic: 80% of businesses listed for sale never sell. Right? And I think this little cartoon actually summarizes it really quite well. What are you selling? Are you selling a well-run, profitable business, or are you selling lots of grief, lots of hassle? Are you selling long hours, low profit? What are you actually selling? That is a big consideration when you're doing your exit plan, right? And that is why 80% of businesses listed never sell. It's not a business, it's a job. So number one is to look at the valuation, right? That little barcode, I'll send you the link for this. Don't need to scan the barcode. We have created and it's Chat GPT, so you'll get a free pinch of salt with this as well. We created a valuation bot. But what the bot does, it'll ask you a number of questions about your business, about the structure. So this takes maybe about 25 to 30 minutes. So that alone should tell you that it's only going to give you a ballpark figure. A proper valuation for your business will take at least a day. So this will give you a starting figure, right? And what this tends to do is bring people down to earth with a little bit of a bump. I had one business owner that had their business valued at £1 million. Turnover was about 200, hadn't made a profit the last 4 years, leased premises, no IP. Business was very close to negative value. In other words, nothing. Business had zero value. and they had it in their head that business was worth £1 million. Right. That's probably one of the most extreme examples I've seen. They did the valuation bot, and it came back with the exact same thing. Business has zero value. It'll challenge it. It'll challenge your answers as well, about the the hours you do. It'll challenge you on reliance on key customers and all these kind of things. It's actually quite a powerful tool, but it is only an approximation to get you started. And that then leads us to this, right? That then leads us to this. We call this the freedom point or the cash gap. And this is where things start to now get serious, um, more for the people that are looking to actually sell and exit. What I mean by the cash gap is when you've got your business, obviously you've got the income for that business. You've got the salary coming in, and you've got your perks such as, maybe you've got the car, maybe you've got the odd little business trip to the Seychelles. You've got all the perks, you've got dividends, etc. When you sell it, that obviously stops. So what we then look at is two figures. The real valuation of my business is this. And what I need to add to my wealth portfolio to retire and or move into other projects is this. And what we've got to remember is things like your house can't be included in that, because that you can't liquefy that asset. You're going to retire. You're more than likely going to stay in your home, so we can't include that in this figure. So we look at what you've got in income. It could be savings, it could be other businesses, it could be a rental portfolio. Everything and anything that generates income goes into that figure. Then we add on the potential for what the business is going to be worth. And then all these things together, is that the figure you need to retire for whatever years you reckon you're going to have an income requirement? And then there'll be a cash gap. If you're selling your business and it tops up your income nicely, that's great. There's no cash gap. But what we see a lot is there's a gap for business owners. And then what we've got to do is look at one of two things. We've either then got to look at the income and just accept that, well, I just have to work on X thousands per year rather than Y thousand. So that's lifestyle changes. Or the preferred option, the whole point of doing this and doing the Junction 20 program is to increase the value of your business so that it does plug that gap. So I just want to introduce that one to you. That is just something to start thinking about, and we would cover that in more detail. Again, for those looking more on an exit side, this is critical, absolutely critical. And it's what's called a stop loss. If anybody's ever done the stock market, they'll be familiar with what a stop loss is. And stop loss is in the cool light of day. So using the stock market as an example, in the cool light of day, you will say, I will buy these shares. And if these shares ever drop below this value, I'll ditch them, I'll sell them and cash out and stop the loss, right? Because what happens is you buy shares, you've got 10 grand's worth of shares, and they drop to five. You think, oh shit, I'm losing a bit of money here. I'll just keep it, I'll come back. They drop to three, they drop to two, and the losses get more. So people that do the stock market have got a stop loss. If it gets to this level, cut the losses, ditch the stock. We want to use a similar um, a scenario when we're selling a business, because trust me, I've done it twice. It is incredibly emotional. And you want to sit down with somebody like me, or if you're using a business broker, them, and say, right, it's okay, so the business is worth this, we're looking to get that. But in the cool light of day, the absolute minimum I'm going to sell a business for is £1 million. The absolute lowest figure I will accept is 1 million. I'm looking for 1.5, but the absolute lowest figure is 1 million. And you sit down in the cool light of day with your advisors and you come up with this figure. And then you'd never go below it. That's it. You've agreed with yourself, that is it. Because what will happen is due diligence can be brutal. And you could get into months of due diligence. questions, hassles. I mean, I was speaking to a business owner a couple of weeks ago. It's just finished it, and he said to me, "Stuart, you said it was going to be tough." He said, "But I had no idea it was going to be this tough, and so many curveballs coming in, things you don't expect." And a buyer will use that to their advantage. Okay, Graham, I know we'd kind of agreed in principle for 1 million, but I didn't understand about this, and this. So it's 750, take it or leave it. And a lot of business owners by this time, they're just done. It's just been months and months, and they're just done. And they just, okay, fair enough. Don't get yourself into that situation. We work in due diligence to make sure you've got as much prepared as you possibly can to make that process is it's not going to be easy, but as easy as it can be. But you damn well want to make sure that you've got your stop loss in place so that you've got your figure in your head that you do not go below. Now let's move on to the the similarities, whether you are selling or whether you are looking just to keep the business but exit yourself from it. I'll always say to any business, and I didn't do this, right? Every business should be built to sell. Every business. Whether you sell or not is irrelevant, right? And as I say, you prepare to sell it so that you don't need to. Because for most business owners, they're selling the grief, the long hours, the hassles, the staff hassles, the cancelled holidays, etc. Right? So build a business so that it can be sold. Whether you do or not becomes almost irrelevant. Is anybody got any questions on what we've covered so far before I dive into the similarities between the two? Any questions? Just unmute yourself, and shout out if there's any questions.
I'm good. Yeah.
Excellent. We will crack on then. So what we're going to look at now is kind of 8 elements. For what I say, you're either sailing or selling, and what I mean by that is, plain sailing. You've got a business that's well structured, um, systemized. Within reason, you can take time off as you want, but most important thing is your stress and hassle levels drop considerably, or you're selling. So what I want you to do is I'm going to run through these 8. I want everybody just to look at one, right? Whether you're selling, whether you're keeping your business and just want it structured better, pick one of these areas where you think you need to focus more on. Number one. So you'll see now on the right, we've got the two different headings. We've got for scale, in other words, you're keeping it, and on the left, we've got for sale, right? So we've got for sale and we've got for scale, keeping it. And this is where you'll start to see that the similarities now. Number one's clarity of vision. Without a clear vision of where this business is going, and I talked about this at the start, this sort of 5 years in the past, 5 years in the future. Without having that clear vision, you are literally driving the handbrake on. And from a selling point of view, any serious buyer wants to see the potential of your business. They want to see the destination, but more important, the strategy behind it. But it's the exact same for a business that's not selling. It's just looking better structured. Your team needs to know where the business is heading and how to get there. Because if they don't, how can they help you? How can they help you on that journey? The simple answer is they can. Next up on the list is financial fitness. Right, and this isn't just accounts. This is conversion rates, marketing, employee turnover figures. A lot of people don't even consider employee turnover figures. In the UK, it's about 100k. 100k of turnover per employee. So if you've got a business that's maybe turnover 500,000, I'm thinking, yeah, it's probably got about 5 employees. Somebody tells me they've got 10 employees, I'm thinking, that's about £1 million business. It's broad brush, it doesn't obviously suit every business, but these are the kind of things that buyers will look at, right? They don't just look at turnover, profit, EBITDA value. They're looking at conversion rates. They're looking at customer churn rates, right? If they start to see a high churn in customers, right? Business might still have an okay turnover and an okay profit, but a high churn rate in customers, it's a red flag for a buyer. So we need to get financial fitness in place, whether we're selling or whether we're keeping. And clean, accurate accounts is really just the starting point. You need strong financial foundations to hire the right people, to expand. If you're looking to grow your business, to scale it, you're looking for funding. Obviously, all this comes into play. So we call that financial fitness. Absolutely critical, and probably more critical now because buyers are getting a little bit savvy. So the financials decide their exit value, right? So ultimately, it will be down to profit, EBITDA, SDE for that exit value. But from a keeping, a scaling point of view, that's how you sleep at night. Then we move on to customer and contract value. And this can there's two different ways to look at this. Recurring revenue is good. Recurring revenue for business owners is good because it gives us predictable cash flow. So if Bruce has got service contracts and he's got 1,000 people paying 1,000 a month, 1,000 a year rather, then that is predictable cash flow, right? There is in business there is nothing better, and it really adds to the value, probably more so than contracts, because recurring revenue can be there for many years. A contract can be won or lost, usually the price. So from a selling point of view, if we start to look at customer contract value, recurring revenues is really important if your business model can accommodate it. Contracts are important. Customer retention is massive as well. Just we talked about the churn rates before. But it's exactly the same whether you're selling or keeping. If you want to grow and scale your business, then predictable cash flow is important. You want to build and loyal customers because that stability is how you grow your business. Because when you've got loyal customers, when you've got recurring revenue, your marketing plummets, right? Because you're retaining your loyal customers, and they're probably giving you lots of referrals and reviews and testimonials. The stability's there. You're not having to constantly spend large sums of money on marketing. You still do marketing, but nothing to the extent that you would be doing without those predictable loyal customers. So expect to get grilled on that when you're exiting because it's massively important. But they'll also look at potential risk, right? And we'll come to that one later because if you've got a large contract, I was speaking to a business owner just a couple of months ago, and one of their largest clients gave them 60% of their turnover. That's I mean that's out the game stuff if they lose that, and it's not an official contract. They've had it for many years, but it's not an official contract. 60% of turnover, ideally about 10, right? About 10% of your turnover from one client. So when you come to look at an exit, that's something that a buyer would look at. Anything over 10%, that's a big risk because they'll be looking at it going, well, hang on a minute, if Bruce sells this business, that customer's loyal to him. If I lose that, that's a potential. That might not be the case, but that's how buyers think. So customer and contract value. That brings us on to risk and dependency, but risk and dependency reduction. If you're selling your business, buyers want low risk. End of. They don't want to see single points of failure. Keeping your business, it's exactly the same, right? I always say the most dangerous number in business is one, right? And over reliance on one customer, an over reliance on one marketing strategy. We all know people that Facebook has. I mean, I know a couple actually, but Facebook always put them out of business because they were overly reliant on Facebook. And Facebook, not that long ago, was phenomenal. You could reach a lot of people for not a lot of money. Whereas it seems to have flipped the exact opposite. You're reaching not a lot of people for a hell of a lot of money. So businesses that were reliant purely on that have found out to their peril that the most dangerous number in business is one. But there's another one as well, and this is definitely applicable whether you're selling or keeping, is you, right? An over reliance on one person. If you're selling your business, that'll be a massive, massive drawback for a buyer because they want to buy a business, not a job. And if you're looking to keep your business and looking to have less hassle, less stress, and more time off, if the business is heavily reliant on you, that becomes difficult. So this is where we look at risk and dependency reduction. And we always ask the top question: what happens if a top client, so my top employee, or me disappear tomorrow? Hmm. That's how you know if you've got risk and what your risk and dependency is. This one, I like this one actually, and I think too many business owners pay lip service to this, right? And it's the growth story narrative. When you're selling your business, one of the things that I get quite frustrated with, and I always tell business owners, do not do this when you're advertising your business to sell. And if you go into the likes of Dalton, you'll see this all over the ads, and it's business for sale, does X, Y, Z, and then it'll go and say something. Business has got fantastic potential. This business has got real potential, right? Well, if it has, why are you selling it? Right? Every single business actually says that. But the reality is, it really has to have that potential. Otherwise, a buyer's not interested. But this is where we get good at this. Because what we do is we paint the picture and let them decide on the potential. And the way I tell business owners to look at it is you want to meet with a prospective buyer for the first time. And once you've had the conversation and they're driving home, you want them to be saying to themselves, oh, this guy's been playing at it. This business has got tons of potential, right? So you don't just say, oh, this business has got great potential. You use the growth story narrative, right? And it's all about building the desirability, right? And we do this in a 5 year plan. Now, if Bruce was selling his business, he was going to sell in, say, 3 years' time, we build a 5 year plan, right? Bearing in mind that 2 of those 5 years, Bruce will not be in control of that business because they'll have sold by that point. And what we actually start to do here is we use what we call the growth potential, right? There's a number of tools. I won't go into too much detail because they're quite complex. But those that are familiar with TAM, SAM, and SOM, total addressable market, serviceable addressable market, and serviceable attainable market, that's what we start to look at growth potential. And we start to look at the areas of business where maybe it's things that you've not wanted to do, you've not wanted to expand, you've not wanted to go for certain markets. So we start to paint this growth story, and that's as equally important whether you're selling or whether you're scaling, because investors, banks, partners, and staff, they want to know what the potential of this business is. And when you're keeping your business, you take your 5 year plan and you can develop your own cash flow from that as well. So this is building the story of possibilities and opportunities, but it's got to be realistic. You can't just say, "Well, I've got a business here that's 500,000. It can easily be 5 million," and leave it at that. You've got to show where that opportunity is coming from. It's got to be realistic. This is where the growth curve comes in, because what we do, use an example of the 5 year vision, and you're going to exit around about year three. When you've got your growth curve, so we've got 5 years in the past, we've got the 5 years projected, we've now got this curve, right? It'd be very difficult for a buyer to come in and say, well, these figures are just, anybody can make these figures up. And you go back to the growth curve and say, well, no, we wrote this plan in 2025. We achieved the growth in 26. We achieved the growth in 27. We achieved the growth in 28. So therefore, it's logic that 2029 and 2030 is accurate. We're starting to see a lot of business owners get a real advantage with that now. So there's a lot to this, but you've got to build that growth story, whether you're selling or whether you're keeping. Team and leadership always going to be there. Always going to be there. When you leave your business, when you exit your business, any buyer is wanting to go, right, okay, there's a good, solid, structured team there. Um, Good leadership, so I don't have to parachute too many people in, or it's not going to take up, I'm not going to be coming in here working, 14 hours a day. The buyer is buying the team as much as the business, but not you. Yes, you'll stay on for 3, 6, 9 months, whatever it might be, with handover or earnouts and whatnot, but they're not buying you. You've got to have that business structured so that it runs without you. So you've got to be investing in culture, leadership, and roles that are beyond you. But it's exactly the same if you want to keep your business, but not have it draining you with working all the hours, right? You can't grow without leaders, right? You've got to be good at delegating in systems and processes. And you don't do that overnight, right? But again, it's exactly the same for the team and leadership side of things, whether you're selling or whether you're keeping. Brand and reputation. Brand and reputation is massive, right? Your business will be valued on sometimes turnover, but always profit, EBITDA. Goodwill, though, market positioning. I've seen businesses that on paper have not been worth a lot of money. And due to their market position and their brand and reputation, that business is sold for 10, 15 times multiple. Right? You see this quite a lot more with tech businesses, right? So you've got to make sure your brand and reputation, whether you're selling or whether you're keeping, you've got to make sure your brand reputation is absolutely bang on. Right? Because unfortunately, we live in this goldfish bowl of a world where everything's visible. And where this catches out a lot of businesses is the potential buyer will be looking at all this stuff probably before they even speak to you. Right? So we always need to be working on a brand and a reputation, right? Um, Getting our repeat customers and our customers to leave reviews and testimonials, etc. I mean, that costs nothing. But from a keeping point of view, it's your brand and reputation that attracts top talent. So if you're looking to keep your business but work less in it, then you're wanting to attract good people. Not just good people to work in the business, but good customers as well. They're all attracted to a strong, powerful brand. They're all attracted to a business with a good reputation. And that's how you really truly scale the business when you're keeping it. It's not easy to do, but it's absolutely essential. So selling or keeping both need consistent marketing and what we call customer experience. I hear a lot of people bang on about customer service. I mean, customer service obviously is important, but customer service is after the fact. If your customer experience isn't exceptional, there's a lot of customers there that are never going to get to experience your customer service. So all this comes into brand and reputation as well. And then we come to the all-time favourite, probably the most important one, systems and processes. If you're keeping your business, this is the most important because it's the systems and processes that's going to allow you to step back. People don't run your business. People run the systems, and it's the systems that run the business. Richard Branson talks about this a lot. So growth is absolutely impossible if everything runs through you as the owner. It's also unhealthy as well, right? Stress is cumulative. It just keeps getting worse and worse. It's exactly the same if you look to sell the business. Buyers don't want a business that'll collapse if they take a holiday for 5 minutes. That's a job. That's not a business. So the systems and processes, I think, is the most important. And that's the one that caught me out with my business. The systems and processes were okay, but they were still too reliant on me. I was still the face of the business, both in the marketing and the customers and whatnot. Take me out of that business, and it just brings in a whole element of risk for a buyer. So think about your systems, your standing operating procedures, automation, right? With AI, automation's becoming a lot easier, right? A heck of a lot easier. Now that brings with it a warning as well that you've got to make sure you don't lose that personal touch, right? But there's no excuses now for a lot of the admin side of businesses not to be automated. And that then leads to better delegation. Boring stuff, but absolutely gold. You as the business owner will not be able to take more time off with and maybe time off to work in on your business rather than constantly in it if you've not got the systems in place. So that's me ran through the eight. What one have you picked that you think, that's the area I need to look at? So if we go back, we started off with clarity of vision. That was the plan. Then we moved on to financial fitness, not just the numbers, but numbers are obviously important, but conversion rates, all the bits and pieces that drive your business. We looked at customer and contract value, in particular recurring revenues. We then looked at the risk and dependency and the risk and dependency reduction, i.e., single points of failure. We then looked at the growth story, painting the picture of what the true potential and possibilities of your business is. Then we looked at team and leadership, the people basically. Then we looked at brand and reputation, and then we finished up with systems and processes. Who wants to be brave and tell me what the one that they want to focus on?
Yeah, I think for
It's,
me, Stuart, it's brand and reputation. Just building up that, like you say, that conversation or that curiosity that a buyer would have on your business before they actually even speak to you, because they're no different to a customer, really. They're a lot of people are making a big decision probably a long time before they've spoken to you in
absolutely.
buying a product, let alone a company. So it's one of the things that we've been pretty weak on in the last sort of like, I guess this business has been running since 2020. So yeah, last 5 years. And something we've picked up on. But yeah, that whole kind of brand and reputation for us, and yeah, yeah,
It's
that's
really
that's what.
important because we're so visible now. We're so visible. Um, and I also think as well, it's not just the visibility. I also think as well in the world we live in today, people are very judgmental, right? They'll see a logo or a design or an ad and they'll make instant decisions based on it. So the whole brand and reputation thing, I think, cuts in really, really important. So good one. Terry, what about you? Was there anyone there that stood out?
Um, Probably systems and processes. As for somebody that preaches systems and processes to their client base, I'm almost embarrassed to say that they're not there in my own business. Um,
Popular sons have the worst shoes.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, a lot of what I do is putting those processes and those systems into other people's businesses. Um, and I suppose we're a very small business in terms of headcount, so it's a lot of it is me anyway.
So
But
that's the thing,
it is
Terry,
stopping
right?
my growth, you know.
Of course it is, right? And even when you've got a business of one, I actually think it's more important to have the systems and processes in place. Because I hear a lot of business, it's just me, I don't need systems and processes. Yes, you do, because it's not just to make your life easier, right? It's to bring in consistency. The thing that really killed me with the ink shop, that was my printing business. Because of the lack of systems and processes, this is just a £3-4 million business. And because of the lack of efficient systems and processes, what we would find is we would be erratically brilliant, is the phrase that I use. We would be brilliant on Monday. We'd be not quite so good on Tuesday, and we would be shit on Wednesday, and then be brilliant on Thursday again. And it's this erraticness that customers absolutely hate. Systems and processes, I mean, it's not a panacea to greatness, but it flattens the curve. So good one, Terry. Lewis, what about you? What did you pick? You're on mute. You're still on mute. You're on mute. Lewis, I can't hear you. You're still on mute.
I think you can unmute him because you're the meeting host, Stuart. I think. I don't know.
No, I can only ask. There we go. Lewis, go for it now.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Automation comes into any business. In my business, I'm just back from a 10-day holiday, and the business self-runs. I've good staff. Staff oversees the sales, and everything works. And any emergencies, you're on the mobile, you've got the laptop, so you're always in touch with your business. Never
Perfect.
ever be out of touch with it, but at the same time, it's got to run when you're not there. That's
Right.
very important to me in business. So I can't
Absolutely.
get away from it.
And that's the ideal. What I say when I'm working with business owners is, can the business run without you, or can the business manage without you? And there's a big difference. So let's say you go away for a 2-week holiday, and before you go on that 2-week holiday, you do a ton of stuff before you go, and there's a ton of stuff waiting for you when you come back.
Yeah.
That's most businesses, right? That's actually okay. At least you can get the 2-week holiday, but that's not a business that can run without you. That's a business that can manage without you, right? A business that can run without you is you get in tomorrow morning and say, "Listen, guys, I'm away for 3 weeks. See you when I come back. Bye." And you can go with minimal planning. And then when you come back, I'll say to Terry, "Terry, that's me back." No, it's nothing, Stuart. Everything's done. Now that's been a little bit flippant with it, right? When a business can go away for 2 to 3 weeks and come back to minimal hassles or minimal work, then that's fine. That lets you know the structure's at least there. Sadly, there is too many businesses out there that can't get the 2-week holiday, or it's military planning before they go. So good one there. Andrew, what about you? Was there anything on those 8 that stood out for you as this a must fix?
I mean, it's all been very interesting. I like your comments about valuations and the like, and I think it's a really good one. Often owners decide how much they want to get, which is nothing to do with what the business is actually worth. I think it's really interesting, and also like your rule of thumb about 100K per employee. I think really interesting stuff. I think what other people have said. You've got to get your processes right, especially if you want to sell. Otherwise, what are you buying? Because it'll collapse, won't it? The minute the boss goes, if he's running everything, it just won't. It'll just collapse. And I agree totally, actually, about being in touch the whole time. Yeah.
The turnover employee is important. The turnover employee one's important, Andrew, because it is a good indicator of the profitability of the business, right? If you see a business that's maybe got 100 to 150 of turnover per employee, and it obviously depends on the margins and whatnot, but it's likely that's actually okay. That business is probably quite profitable, so that's okay. I've seen a couple of businesses where the employee turnover has been 50 grand, 50, 60,000, right? And you think, Jesus Christ, by the time you actually factor salaries, national insurance, and pension, there is not a heck of a lot there left for actually running a profitable business. So it's one, every business on this call, that'll be a different figure. The important one is just to know what yours is, right? Because I think it was Jim Rohn that said, you can only improve when you accurately measure. So once you know these figures, you can actually start to improve them. If you don't know them, you're left getting blind. Graham, I'm not quite sure if you're still on. Graham,
Yeah, still on, Stuart. Good to
Excellent.
hear from you. The one that probably we would select as being most relevant for us is the growth and the evidence in it.
Yes.
We pretty well, we'd like to think we've got most of the other ones ticked off on the teams and leadership stepping up, etc. Strong accounts. It's really the nature of our business is subject to the vagaries often of the construction market. So we've got a very strong pipeline with some very strong customers. We're not reliant on just one. We have 4 or 5 very strong. But being able to evidence and show that it will definitely happen in years 2 or 3 is quite difficult because it is often dependent on outside factors, especially with Rachel Reeves' budget and the lack of development incentives on the construction and house purchase side.
Yes. I'd agree with that. The growth curve's a good one, whether you're selling or keeping, because what anybody looking to buy a business is looking for is a return on investment. If you think about it, if I'm buying your business, Gabe, I'm giving you £1 million for it. My biggest priority is how soon am I going to get that money back?
Yeah.
Right. And if I'm buying a business where you think, okay, so this business is making good money, but hang on a minute, look at the potential this business has got. So instead of my ROI being, 5 years, I could potentially knock this in the head in 2.5 or 3 years, right? And you don't want to be telling the buyer that. You just want them to be thinking it, right? By taking the time and doing the growth curve. It's something I spend a lot of time on. Does it add value? This is important. Does it actually add value to the business? Does it increase the selling price? Actually, no, it doesn't, because invariably the selling price is based on the financials here and now, right? But what it does do is makes a difference, especially when you've got 2 or more buyers. Because one of the things I'm going to show in another slide is you've got 2 options when you're selling your business. You can sell it like a house, or you can sell it like a car, right? And the growth curve will dictate which method that is. If you're selling your business like a car, you've got the price in the windscreen and it's negotiated down. I want £1 million for my business. No, I'll give you 100 for it. 850, 825. Aye, okay. If you're selling your business like a house and you've got the growth curve in place and you've got 2 or 3 interested buyers, then it's offers over. I'm looking for £1 million. Well, I'll give you 1.1 for it. Well, right, okay, I'll give you 1.2. Right. And you only do that when you've painted that picture of the growth curve and you've got 2 or more serious interested buyers. And that's not easy. So, almost finished.
I
Couple of
agree
slides.
with you on that one, Stuart. We demonstrate the growth and to be quite honest, with improving the position from where it stood 5 years ago. Whereas if you're in discussions with, they always want to look to the past and base it on the past as opposed to the growth. So it's getting that picture painted that actually shows that things have been sorted out, problems have been issued, and it is very much on a growth curve that will continue. And I hate to say it, but it's getting that past. Accountants tend to always want to look in the past.
Yes. That's the interesting one, because the accountant will always look in the past. The business owner, the entrepreneur, will always look in the future.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you've got a business owner that's young, ambitious, entrepreneurial, they will be looking at the future. Right. They'll still be looking for a deal. So it's not quite as simple as that. So just to get back onto slides to wrap up, the exit paradox, as we now know, is preparing for sale. Preparing for sale or preparing for scale is exactly the same thing. But this is where it gets really interesting. Let's say you decide, well, do you know what? My business is a bit disorganized. I want to take more time off. I want to have less hassle. I want to get my business more structured, more systemized. That's going to give you a more enjoyable business, a more profitable business. But also, when you do decide to exit, it's going to give you a more valuable business. So you do the hard work once and you get twice the payoff, because in the years leading up to the exit, you've got a more profitable business. Rachel's going to take her chunk of it, but you've got a more profitable business and it's worth more. You're getting double hit. So my advice is, do not try to scale your business until it's sellable first. And what I mean by that is, again, this is where I went wrong. When I was scaling my business, it wasn't sellable. In other words, the systems and the processes weren't there. So it was on a foundation of sand, right? So do not try to scale a business that's not sellable first. But don't try to sell a business that's not scalable first. It's all the same stuff. So what's next? We've covered a lot tonight. Time's marching on. You've now got three options. Option number one, done by many, admittedly, is just to do nothing. Right, we'll just carry on going. This is good. We'll go away and do nothing. Number two, no charge for this, is book a power hour. Whatever you've looked at, you want to expand more on. You might want to look at the growth curve in more detail. You may be curious what TAM, SAM, and SOM is for future projections. Book a power hour. Probably booking now into mid-December. We're getting quite close to booking into next year, and we'll explore that further with you. Right. Also, if you're looking seriously at perhaps an exit, I can maybe give you some introductions of brokers that can facilitate that for you as well, because that's something I don't do. I'm only looking at preparation for keeping or getting it ready for sale. No charge for that. Or let's just get started. Let's just get my business sorted. And that starts at $395 a month. Simple as that. So that's your three options. I would recommend option two. Right? Do the power hour. Let's see who you are with your business. Let's see what you've got to do and work from that. So you know me, you've got my LinkedIn details. Email address is stuart@here'showto.co.uk. The learning comes from the book and the system comes from the program called Junction 20. I'm quite happy to share that with you, what that actually covers. And that's just all about getting your business ready for sale. Whether you sell it or not is almost irrelevant, but it's getting your business ready for sale. And that's it. Pretty much bang on time, which is impressive. So I hope that's been informative. I hope that's helped. Any questions before we wrap up? Bruce, any
Like I
questions?
said, it's been a big help listening to what you're saying. I'm now coming up to 66 and looking. I'm not selling the business yet. Looking for an exit strategy sometime in the next 4 or 5 years. We've run the business for 39 years. So yeah, listening to what you're saying, maybe it's worth looking at a few points and get the exit strategy done now, for maybe a couple of years' time. When we're in the leasing market, it's usually quite easy to sell the leasing side. So
Yeah.
we'll take the points and work on them.
Excellent. And the simple fact is, when you look at an exit strat, the longer the better. Right? Can you do it in a year? Yeah, of course you can. Can you do it in 2? Yes. Can you do it in 3, 5? Better. Because what you've got then, Lewis, is you've then got, so you do your 5-year growth curve, your 5-year vision, and you're achieving all these years. And what I've just done with one of the businesses I'm working with, because they had said, well, what happens if a buyer comes to us and says, well, you just made these up? I said, no, you give it to the solicitor, and the solicitor notarizes it, date stamps it, and basically confirms that I got these figures presented to me by XYZ company on 26 November 2025. Signed it. So then they look at the figure and go, so what he projected in 26 was accurate, what he projected in 27 was accurate, 28 was accurate, therefore it goes within reason that the other forecast is realistic. Nobody does this.
True.
It's all just finger in the air stuff. Nobody does this. And that's why I always say, people say, what's the optimum? Optimum for me, 2 to 5 years. 2 to 5 years when you're looking at exit. Bruce, any questions from you?
No,
No.
I'm just disappointed about the EOT thing because that's one of the thoughts that I had with my business. So,
Yes.
although having had a few conversations with a business coach I work with, like invariably it often ends up not being an EOT. You're better off just going for a trade sale in my industry, but yeah, it's just I was curious about the title for the talk today, and I'm just sort of like starting to think about all that, hitting 50, looking for a some kind of exit at 55. So just but what interested me about today's was about still maybe remaining in the business, chairman or, but it's all about those systems and processes and making yourself redundant from the ops side of it, which I've worked really hard um, to get me out of about 75% of the business, but there's 25%. That's why I was speaking about the brand and the recognition and all that kind of stuff. That's the bit I'm involved too much in the BD side of the business. So,
It's
yeah.
an interesting one, Bruce, because when you look at exiting your business but not selling it,
Yeah.
right, that becomes pure down to choice, right? So, for example, you might decide, well, do you know what? I'm actually quite happy working 5 days a week, right? I just don't want to have 5 really stressful, shitty days. I want to have enjoyable days that I'm working on the business, not in it, and I can go golfing if I want, etc., etc. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Or you might
Yeah.
decide you want to work 3 days, or you might want to work a couple of days a month, right? There's a lot of businesses now starting to look at this and going, well, hang on a minute, if I only have to work a couple of days a month and I can still draw a decent salary out of it, why the hell would I sell that golden goose?
Yeah. My dad's 87 and he's still working. Uh,
Good on him,
so
I was hoping.
yeah, yeah. He's enjoying his farm and his Clydesdale horses. So yeah. But it's
Well,
not him that's running the business.
it's only hard work if you make it hard work.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. I always look at when I lost my business and became a director at Trade Print, that was the business we sold for 21 million, right? Because they did the growth curve perfectly, right? And the person that owned Trade Print would never have sold that unless he'd got this crazy offer in, because Paul that owned Trade Print would work
Mhm.
a couple of days a month. A couple of days a month, got a business that's given them, I think at that point, 350 grand a year, right? A couple of days a month, right? And his argument was, and this was to the buyer, and the buyer was Vistaprint. He actually turns around to Vistaprint and says, well, I'm not selling that, right? And they come back with and this is what I mean by the house, right? They come back with a revised offer, and he still said no. So they came back with like 3 revised offers, and then it just got to the ridiculous point. He's like, 21 million in a for a print business, which is in decline. Yeah, okay, I'll take it. Quite an interesting story.
Mhm.
So, Terry, any questions for you before we wrap up?
No, it's been really interesting, but no questions. I think you covered everything. A lot of it makes a lot of sense. A lot of it is things that I would talk to other people about, but it's about, I suppose it's about practicing what you preach, isn't it? Ultimately.
Right. I've not covered anything new. You all know this stuff, but just sometimes you just need it presented to us,
Yeah,
don't you?
100%.
Andrew, any questions, Andrew?
No, just thank you for your time. Hey, and does that book exist that you showed us a picture of?
Yes.
What
I
available
will.
on good retailers?
Amazon bestseller.
Is it?
Amazon #1 bestseller. Amazon #1 bestseller. So I will I arrange a copy for you. Graham, any questions before we wrap up?
No, it's very informative as always. We definitely want to book the hour with you, Stuart. So I'll be in touch on that.
Good stuff.
Yeah, no, thanks, Stuart. I've got to go. So still in the office.
Same here.
I've got the commute home. So
Oh, nightmare. I've got a dog to walk, so I'll go and I'm surprised he's not bugging me. Thank you very much for your time, folks.
Thank
Any
you very
questions
much.
at
cheers,
all?
Stuart. Appreciate
Give me a
it.
All the
shout.
best. Cheers now.
Have
See
a good
you.
evening.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Cheers, thanks.
Bye bye.